Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and it's time for Friday Reads on Friday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. I think we're going to go out for a treat later. That's about the extent of our Valentine celebrating. I sent chocolates to our daughter, and that's it. We're not really big Valentine's people. Now, I used to be a bigger Valentine's person because I worked at an elementary school for many years, so it was a huge deal the whole week. It's friendship week, and there's themes and different things to wear every day of the week. But now it has simmered down, and it's just kind of like a little treat day. But that is just my speed. Now, I was tagged in this really cute Valentine's book tag by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading. And I'm going to link her video below because she does a really fun video, and she also includes links to her previous year's Valentine's tags. And the tag was to pick any of these tags and do them, but I failed to do any of this, and now it is Valentine's Day. So I want to include Kelly's video because I just really enjoyed it. She had a lot of great book suggestions to go with all the prompts. And even though I dropped the ball and didn't do this tag whatsoever, I do want to rescue one question from the tags that's stuck in my mind. And so I'm going to do one of the prompts right now. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of a couple that never got together in a book, and you always wish that they had gotten together. So kind of like a misconnection sort of thing. And so here's my answer, because when I looked at the prompts, as I was thinking about doing the tag, and then time just got away from me. When I saw that prompt, something immediately came to mind. Now, if you have not read the Jackson Brodie series by Kate Atkinson, and you think you might, it begins with case histories. Avert your ears for just a moment, because it's a spoiler. But if you have read them, you probably agree with me. So here it comes. Avert your ears. So the couple that I always wish had gotten together, and maybe they still will, is Jackson and Louise from this series. Jackson's a private detective. He was formerly a police officer and formerly in the military, and Louise is a police officer. They cross paths at various points through the series. The series has, I think, 7 books now. I'll go check. Something's always not quite right. Either one or both of them are already in a relationship, or they have miscommunications, or somebody just says something really wrong, or the timing's just always not right, but they're always thinking about each other. And Jackson is the main character in all the books, but Louise, sometimes she's another main character, and sometimes she's not in the story at all, or she's in the background. But Atkinson keeps dropping in these little things to show us that they've always been thinking about each other. And whenever they are together, there's just this weird kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a chemistry. It's kind of like Much Ado About Nothing, like a Beatrice and Benedict kind of chemistry. It just never works out, and it's not very satisfying. So, yes. And I know she does it on purpose. And I mean, I guess, I don't know if she's just going to let that ride out because sometimes life's just like that, or if she's going to let them ever get together. But there it is. That's my answer. Okay, everybody come on back. The spoiler is over. All right, so moving right along. So anyway, I didn't do that tag, but I saw this morning that I've been tagged a couple of times, maybe just today, and I haven't even had time to see these videos yet. So I'm going on record. I'm going on film right now to say I'm going to select something that I've been tagged in, and that's what I will be doing on Tuesday. Okay, there it is. I've made a commitment to something that I haven't even seen yet. I'm going to choose something, and I'm going to do it. So I read Ghostroots by Pemi Aguda, and this book was a finalist for the National Book Award, and it's currently on the long list for the Penn Faulkner Award. I believe it's a debut collection. It's short stories. They're not linked short stories. And going into it, I had a preconceived notion of what kind of book this was, and that's not exactly what it was. And it briefly threw me off. But once I got my footing, I got really into this. Two things threw me off. First of all, I was thinking magical realism, and I wasn't really knowing until I got into it that, yeah, sort of, but really, really on the dark side of that. Like, really, really more, and sometimes definitely in some stories, definitely all the way into horror, not magical realism, or writing the line. There's some body horror in these stories. They are dark, they are uneasy, they are unsettling. Once I understood that that was the mood, and I kind of saw what the themes were going to be, then I got into it because I read the first story and I thought, oh, I'm not sure about this. There was the story itself, the premise was really cool, but it's a body horror story. And that story had to do with a woman who her mother started to, when she looked at her, and it describes it in the the blurb, but I didn't really get it. It said when she sees her mother in her daughter's face. Well, I kind of took that at face value. Like, you look at your daughter and you see her features. No, like, she literally, when she looked at her daughter, she saw her mother, who had died at about the age that her daughter had now reached. And her mother was very unstable and abusive. So the mother starts reacting in really strange ways. And at the same time, the daughter develops this bizarre affliction where she gets these big, weird zits. And the only way to get rid of them is to do an awful thing to somebody else, along the lines of what her grandmother would have done. And she doesn't really know anything about this grandmother because she's just not talked about very much in the family because she was awful. But so there's just this awful stew of family conflict and old trauma coming out, literally coming out like zits and being exorcised by evil deeds. So that was the first story, and I'm just reading this going, whoa, this is intense. And after a couple stories, I realized, okay, these stories are going to be intense, dark, creepy, unsettling, unnerving. And so then, kind of like, you don't want to get on a roller coaster ride without first seeing what it's going to do. Well, once I understood probably the kind of things we were going to do, then I really enjoyed them. So if you are in one of these headspaces where you need something lighter, uplifting, kind of cozy, that's not the right time to read Ghostroots. You have to be ready for some dark experiences. And there are themes about trauma, family trauma, personal trauma. There's lots of things about parents and children, societal inequities. There's just a lot of uneasiness that is played out in different ways in these stories. And they're very well crafted. So when you're in the right mood, it really is a good experience. So that was Ghostroots. Next thing I was reading on my beautiful pink iPad, it was TopDog Underdog by Suzan-Lori Parks. So this is the play that we're reading for the second half of February in my project Endless Drama, which you can access on my Discord. So this month in February, we were reading Raisin in the Sun and TopDog Underdog, and kind of roughly in the two halves of the month. So we're just sort of entering the discussion of TopDog Underdog. But when I sat down to read it, I ended up binging it. I read a little bit of it, got like a little flavor of it, and then the next time I sat down, I just read the whole thing. I couldn't stop. And I'm only going to describe it a little bit, but I'm not going to get too much into it because we're going to be discussing it in the Discord. But it is a play that I got to put the year up here. It was early 2000s, like 2001 or something like that. And it did win the Pulitzer Prize. Suzan-Lori Parks has written a play with just two characters. So it's very intimate and very concentrated. And the two characters are Lincoln and Booth, two men who are brothers. Lincoln and Booth are living in Booth's apartment. They're both very down on the money. We find out that Lincoln was previously very proficient at three-card Monte and hustling people on the street, but he has stopped doing that after a close friend died. And he has this job at an arcade where he is dressing up in whiteface as President Abraham Lincoln, and tourists can come by and shoot at him with, well, I don't know, I guess it's like not BB guns, pellet guns, something that doesn't really hurt, but they get to pretend they're assassinating Lincoln. They have several conversations about why this job is awful or why this job is good. Lincoln tries to defend the job, and Booth wants him to stop this job and go back to the 3-carb Monty, which he is trying to brush up and perfect his own skills, but he's just not as good at it. There's all this family background stuff that comes out over the course, and it takes place over several scenes. That's all I'm going to say. I probably said too much, but that's it. That's all I'm going to say about it. I forgot, you know what? I just remembered because I sent it back to the library. I also this week read The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin, the second half of it. Last week I had read, it's divided into two, but it's not evenly divided. There's a short letter and then a longer essay. And the shorter letter is called My Dungeon Shook, and it's a letter that he wrote to his nephew. And then the longer piece is an essay, which I did read this week. And interesting how some of it was very, very specific to issues going on at the time it was written in the 1960s, and some of it is very universal and applies. He could have written it yesterday, and unfortunately, okay, so I had the book, and when I got it and started to read it, somebody had tabbed it all over the place, like they had been discussing it in a class or maybe on a video, and I had to go through and take out all their tabs, and then I read it and put all these tabs in it. And then I went to the library yesterday and I took out all my tabs and returned it. And then, oops, I kind of needed it for the video. He talks a lot about the Black Muslim movement, Nation of Islam, and how they, at the time that he was writing this, they were sort of courting his membership. He talks about his perception of that organization, and he has these concerns. This was the part, I wish I had kept the book for the quote, but he has concerns about what he sees as an American predisposition to accept packages without carefully examining them critically, accepting somebody's line of thinking, hook, line, and sinker, without examining everything about its purposes, its agendas, its origins. And that whole idea of people only listening to one message or one speaker and not looking at all the parts of it and the where it's coming from, that I thought really resonated. So he doesn't wholeheartedly either embrace or reject the Nation of Islam, but he applies some critical questions to their messaging and their purpose and their role. And then he talks about other things, about life for Black Americans at that time, and some of it is very timely today. It could have been written right now. So then I overcompensated, and I picked up the next book in the Tales of the City series, Marianne and Autumn. Just going for some lighter, more comforting material. And this is, like I said, this is number 8. Marianne is a character that has frustrated me and everybody else in the universe of the Tales of the City stories. Did I say the author? Armistead, Maupin. Anyway, the books take place in real time. So they start in the 70s. It's 2010. So now all of a sudden, Marianne and Michael Tolver and those people are all like my age. And Mrs. Madrigal is 90. And so time has advanced a lot since the stories began in the 70s. Marianne left San Francisco, and she's been gone for about 20 years at the time of this story. She did come back once when something else happened. But part of the story, or really this overall series, part of it is about, over a long period of time, what happens in different kinds of relationships. Why do certain friendships, they're so tight and so important, and then something happens and people drift apart. And so Marianne was the drifter, and she has some repair work to do when she comes back to town, because she She needs some refuge with her old friend during a challenging time in her life. Michael's husband, Ben, is viewing this from the stance of someone who wasn't there for the beginning part of this history. So his perception of Marianne is quite different. But he's trying to navigate that and trying to be supportive, yet he's got his own kind of some critical questions about the situation of his own. So we get that kind of all that good relationship stuff, different kinds of relationships and how they fit together, how they accommodate things that maybe they don't fully understand or agree with because it's important to someone else that they love. And then some of the side characters that are having their own challenges and journeys, people of different ages in the story. And the one thing that's kind of goofy, the early stories have these really wonky plots, these really crazy, far-fetched things that happen. And you have to read those at the same time that there's these really good character development things going on. Well, he kind of toned that down as the series progressed and the whole experience became a little more mature. But in this book, he does a real throwback to something really crazy that happened in one of the very first books. And he loops that storyline back in. Something that seemed to be settled long ago comes back and is woven in the most oddball manner. So it was a throwback to that previous style and an old story thread, and it was just very unexpected. But I read the book very quickly. I gobbled it up. And once again, I enjoyed spending time with these really engaging, flawed characters that he's just really taken his time over decades and been really consistent in their development, even when you don't like the path that they go on for a while, and then maybe he brings them back. Anyway, I just enjoyed it very much. Another book that's sort of a long-term ongoing thing is I'm reading the poems in this collection, You Are Here, Poetry in the Natural World. It's edited by Ada Limon. She commissioned 52 poets for this collection to contribute poems that somehow reflect nature and humans' role or interaction or need or something with nature, some sort of part of the relationship there. So they're not old-fashioned type nature poems. They're fresh. They have unexpected points of view, and I'm just reading one a day or two a day, sometimes three a day, once in a while none a day. I'm just kind of reading along with it. There's no discussion. There's a introduction of each poet. They're all people, a lot of them are people that are new to me, but they are all accomplished poets with publications and awards, so I can look more further. I'm going to look more further into the ones that I like the most, but I am enjoying just picking this up once a day and having a little poetry moment. I am at that wonderful juncture where I finished a whole bunch of things all at once, and I've only started one thing very slightly, and that is the next book in the Pineiro project, which is called Betty Boo. And I am reading that in the Books app on my iPad. Well, I mean, that's just in the middle of a page. But I started it last night. Officially, we're starting in a few days because we're supposed to be on a break. I had this opening in my schedule, so I decided to start reading it last night. So I have nothing to say about it so far. I've only read a few pages. But it is the next book. It's our second to last book in our project, where we are reading the 7 books that have been translated into English by the Argentine writer Claudia Pineiro. She has more than 7 books, but that's how many have been translated thus far. So that is going to be revving up again in the upcoming weeks. So I'm looking forward to discussing that with my wonderful group. And then I'm kind of open. Got a couple of things in mind. I want to read Big Jim and the White Boy, this graphic novel. There they are on their raft. It's another retelling of Huck Finn, and I want to look at that before it's due at the library. I'm not even going to show you possibilities because it'll be the same ones, and you're going to say, Angelia, really? For real? You're gonna read Ghost Mountain this week? Okay, yeah. But I do. I have Ghost Mountain and Barchester Towers and all that other stuff on my cart that I keep saying, oh, I think I'm gonna read this next. I don't know what I'm gonna read next. I'm gonna read Betty Boo, and then I'm gonna add something else, and I don't know what it is, and you'll just have to wait and see. So that's it. That's my week. Tell me what you're reading, what you have going on. I don't really have any special weekend plans. We'll see what happens. But if you got something exciting, tell me about it in the comments, and I will be back with, well, I gotta go watch these videos and then choose something, and I will be making some kind of video on Tuesday based on stuff I got tagged on this week. So have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye.